Well, I'm really happy to be here. I found out about this conference last year, I think right after it happened. It's like, how did I miss that? And so I'm hugely gratified to be here. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and the way that I initially connected to this conference was I cold emailed Ashley trying to set up a waste audit for our Salt Lake City office. Got connected to Ashley. Ashley connected me to this, so here I am. So you've already heard a little bit about me. Actually, I was talking to an exhibitor out there, and he asked me about my background, and he's like, did you study this, or did you just kind of glide into it? And I come into the glide into it. Before I was the sustainability program manager for Regence, I was actually the company's ethics and compliance officer. And it might seem like a weird stretch to go from ethics and compliance to sustainability, but it's all about culture. And so the emphasis when I was the ethics and compliance officer, and the emphasis of our ethics and compliance program today, is around building, strengthening, maintaining an ethical culture. And if you were in the keynote, you heard that the hardest thing about this work is the behavioral change. And that's where I focus a lot of my energy. The other thing that Ashley asked me to talk about, records management and document destruction. Many years ago, I was a paralegal for a law firm in Washington, D.C. And what paralegals do is they go to warehouses that are dusty, and they go through documents, boxes and boxes and boxes of documents. And that experience really made me appreciate that we need to do a lot better job of managing our documents and our records than we currently do. So I actually have some interest in some background in that. And in addition to being a master recycler, I'm also a bike commuter. Okay, so a little bit about Regence. We're in 4 states. We're in Utah, as well as Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. Our corporate headquarters is in Portland, Oregon. And so here in Utah, we're called Regence Bluecross Blueshield of Utah. I actually now work for a company called Cambia Health Solutions. Cambia is actually a real word. It means It means tree rings. And we just changed the name of our parent company from the Regence Group to Cambia. So you'll see that on my email. Okay, so a lot of people ask me, so why does Regence care about sustainability? It's not like you make stuff, like tangible stuff. Well, our company was founded in 1917 out of logging camps, actually, in Pierce County, Washington. And a group of loggers got together and they said, how do we help each other out in terms of, when people are injured? And as you've got to imagine, in logging camps, the injuries are pretty grievous. And it was hard for one person or kind of one family to manage that on their own. And so a group of people got together and said, let's help each other out. So we come out of a place of really taking care of each other, of stewardship, and also being engaged in the community. And also in the footprint where we operate, I'd say especially in Oregon and Washington, sustainability is a really important value. Internally, when I'm talking to our CFO, I say, there's some cost savings opportunities here, some opportunities towards greater efficiency, and then this hasn't quite resonated with my CFO yet, but as we saw in that last picture, people who are growing up really, really care about this stuff. And just walking around here, you see all this emphasis on like recycling and waste reduction. And so what I tell my people at Regence is the people we want to hire, the people we want to have come work for us, they care about this stuff and they want to see that reflected in how we operate. So I go around and I sell these things, and there are still some people scratching their heads. I've been at this for almost 3 years now. Hopefully fewer people are scratching their heads than they were in the past. So when I came into this job, I immediately thought, we're going to recycle better. We're going to do a much better job with that. And that's what I would hear about from employees. They'd say, why can't we compost? Or why can't we do this? And I'm like, yeah, why can't we do that? And then I quickly hit some walls and realized that it wasn't as simple as we're going to put a bin there. We need to educate. We need to talk to people about why this is important, why it's not sufficient to have a recycling station, one recycling station in a break room in a 6-story building. So I've been going around meeting with different work teams and giving what I call Sustainability 101 presentations. And so it's things about the triple bottom line. And it's also really trying to connect sustainability to the work of what their particular department does. And some departments really light up, and some are like, oh, that's interesting, and thank you for that information. I've placed a lot of articles in company newsletters, and our newsletter is an electronic newsletter that comes out twice a week. And then starting to engage employee green teams, because I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I've been here 3 times since December, but ultimately I'm going to have to rely on the people on the ground who are really passionate about it to help make this thing live and breathe. In terms of the ACT part, we quickly realized that in order to really design an effective waste reduction strategy, actually in order to define or design an effective recycling strategy, that we really needed to kind of step back to waste reduction. It wasn't just about capturing the recycling. And that where we needed to start was we needed to understand what was in our waste stream. So we got educated about doing waste audits, and I'll go into more detail about that. The other things in terms of ACT are piloting waste reduction strategies with allies, and then facilitating reuse and using recycled content, and I'll go into more detail about those things. So building block was doing waste audits. And it's kind of funny, I've done 6 now, and the first waste audit we did was in Portland in April of 2011, and we must have had like 5 or 6 different meetings where we're talking about all the things that we need to coordinate. And it's gotten to the point where we get the right people on the phone for 30 minutes, and it's like, okay, good, we're done. So we kind of know how to do it now, but back then it was bringing our facilities people to the table, our janitorial vendor, our facilities management vendor, our hauler, and really trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this? But mostly educating them so that they felt like it was a good use of their time. So we did this waste audit, or in waste audits, you sort into categories that make sense. And so I talk about this a little bit more later, but Ashley and Jesse Millen Johnson, as well as our hauler, were invaluable in terms of helping us understand what the local waste stream will support in terms of recycling and diversion. And so each waste audit is a little bit different in terms of how we sort, depending on what that local waste stream looks like. And then, as I mentioned, we partnered with our facilities department, with our hauler, and local sustainability, recycling, solid waste resources. So the way that I sold it to people internally was employees really care about this. This is kind of a make or break. They want to know why we aren't doing a better job. What I learned, and what I also had to educate our facilities people on, is that our recycling infrastructure could be a lot better. And I kind of learned this the hard way. We're in Portland, where I work, we're actually in 3 different buildings. And last summer, I had a summer intern, and I said, well, let's walk the footprint of the company. At one point, I got a Diet Coke, and I finished it. And then I started looking for a place to recycle that Coke can. And I walked 5 floors before I finally got to a recycling station. And in the eyes of our facilities people, well, that's sufficient. It's there. It's on the 2nd floor. Go there. And we find a lot of the stuff in the trash because people don't take the time to go there. And in fact, I kind of busted some of our IT guys who work 20 feet away from that recycling station because I found cans and bottles in their trash can. And I have a good relationship with them. And I remember holding up the trash can and going, guys. And they're like, well, it's not right here. And I'm like, but it's over there. And to me, that was a real lesson in you have to make this as easy as possible. And you also have to really bring it into the culture more. And it's funny when I say that, because I've been talking to people like, wow, you're from Portland. You guys do things great there. Yeah, we're pretty good. But we still have a lot of ways that we could be better. And to me, seeing employees throw stuff in the garbage when there's a recycling station 20 feet away shows me that we still have a lot of room to do better. And As I mentioned, facilities didn't really understand the issue. And then we worked a lot with the City of Portland, has a Sustainability at Work program to plan and conduct this waste audit. And in doing that, we had people from our janitorial vendor, people from facilities, that it was really eye-opening for all of us to see all the stuff that was ending up in our garbage that really could be diverted into recycling or possibly food composting. So I mentioned I've done a few waste audits. So Portland, Lewiston, Idaho, Burlington, Washington, Salem, Oregon, Salt Lake City in January. And in each case, we collaborated with the local sustainability/recycling solid waste resources. And so I've already mentioned Ashley and Jesse. Jesse actually came out with us and was there for the first hour or so and was a really great resource and a really great sport about it. And then our hauler, Republic Services, which is also, I think, Allied Waste, was also out there with us and was a great support. And frankly, we couldn't have done it without Ashley and Jesse, and without Republic Services. So this may be hard to see, but this is what our waste audit looked like in terms of weight. And if you're interested, the spreadsheet that I used to create this was actually given to me by the Marion County, Oregon Earthwise program, and they have this beautiful spreadsheet where you plug it in, it generates this data, and it creates this really cool pie chart. And I can't imagine that they would have a problem with me sharing it with you. It's a really, really great resource. And I like how it's got these pictures in it. So in terms of weight, if we kind of did a better job of diversion, we could potentially we could reduce our garbage by 55%. Now, 7% of that waste is food scraps. And currently there isn't a business composting program, but we still want to know what percentage of our waste is compostable so that down the road, when there is a composting program, we can anticipate this is how much of that waste we can divert. Paper is a huge one for us, and I'll talk some more about that when I talk about document destruction and records management. We're a health insurance company. Privacy is a really important issue, and our privacy department has decided we don't want people to have to think about whether or not this has personal health information on it. We want all of our paper to leave the company in a shred bin. So we have no other paper recycling. And yet we still found 9% of the waste was paper. And what happens with that paper is I bag it up. It gets shipped back to the privacy people in Portland. Usually it's wet, it's had coffee spilled on it, it kind of smells. So the privacy guy hates to see me coming. And I feel badly for the people who sit around him, because what he does is he takes the paper and he spreads it out in his cube to air dry. And it's somewhat fragrant. And then he has a box of latex gloves, which he goes through every single piece of paper to see if there's anything on it that has personal health information. Now, fortunately, in the Salt Lake one, he didn't find that. But he did find things that were company confidential that really shouldn't be in the garbage. So we always take that opportunity after a waste audit to remind people, please don't throw this stuff away. Please make sure that you're putting it in a shred bin. And there are things that we could do better in terms of placing those shred bins in more obvious places so that they're easy for people to get to. In terms of other waste, we had metals, we had plastic, we had a lot of cardboard and gray board and very little glass. And so we're waiting to complete all of the waste audits in all of our locations before we devise a comprehensive waste reduction and recycling strategy, because as much as possible, we want it to be consistent across the company so that as people are traveling from location to location, they don't have to relearn a system. Having said that, I've also really stressed with our facilities people, I don't want it to be lowest common denominator. So in places like Portland and Tacoma, I think basically in Oregon and Washington, we can compost food. So let's do that. And in places like Lewiston and Salt Lake, where we can't, let's hold off, but let's not do, again, lowest common denominator. So I'm going to take a brief detour into document destruction. And one of the things that happens in large companies like mine, we have 5,500 employees, is we tend to think, oh, that's somebody else's responsibility. We have a very small records management department that's housed in our legal department, and we actually hired somebody into that role 2 years ago. And so people tend to think, well, that's Eric's job. And Eric's job is to let people know that actually it's everybody's job. He can't manage all the information that we've got kind of floating around our organization. And so he spends a lot of time working with departments to help them devise more more effective records management strategies. So he's working on implementing an enterprise-wide records management policy and guidelines, and then also establishing clear records retention schedules. Eric, in the process of doing this job, has become a little bit of the company's historian. He's been going into our storage areas and finding documents from the 1930s and 40s. And it's really funny, there's a picture of one of our company executives, with one of those big desks. It's very clean, and there's an ashtray on it, and we laugh when we look at that because, well, we're a health insurance company, and you've got an ashtray on your desk, and I realize that's probably the era of Mad Men and everything like that, but still. And so it's fun to find that stuff, but if we were actually following our records retention schedule, we'd only have 7 years worth of stuff. That stuff would have been like archived or thrown away a long time ago. Some of the other fun stuff that he's found is Christmas ornaments. People will send their department Christmas ornaments off-site, and that costs real money for us to store those things. So he's going around educating people about, okay, the retention schedule says 7 years, and really we need to make sure that we're getting rid of it after 7 years unless there's a lawsuit or some other reason we need to hold it, and figure out some other way to store your Christmas ornaments. And from a legal perspective, there's a lot of risk associated with holding on for things for too long. So I go back to my paralegal days. So in lawsuits, the other side will say, produce documents related to X topic. And if your records retention schedule says 7 years, and you actually hold to that, then you only have to look through 7 years worth of information, and that's still a lot of information. But if your policy says 7 years and you have 30 years worth of stuff, you're going through 30 years worth of stuff. And that costs a lot of time and money to do. And so there are really good financial reasons for companies to adopt and really adhere to a records retention and effective records management policy. So another thing that we've tried to do is to reduce paper use. And I think I keep hearing this anecdote, which I'm pretty sure is true, about how, with the advent of email and all this great technology that we have, people thought that we'd have less paper. And in fact, we seem to have more paper. And so some of the things that we've done are we default to duplex printing. And it's kind of funny because anymore when I see the other side of the paper not being used, I'm thinking it's a perfectly great piece of real estate. And I was in a meeting with our leadership team in Boise, Idaho, and somebody's presentation was single-sided, and then I got up to give my sustainability talk, and I said, here are some things to do. And I held up the other person's presentation, and I was very light on it, and I said, let me introduce you to the back side of the page. And so it's a really simple thing to do. And then we also we switched out our printer fleet a couple of years ago so that all of our print jobs are now print on demand. And so basically when I send something to print, if I want it, I need to walk to a printer and I need to flash my badge to get it out, which is a great thing. And I think it's estimated to save us anywhere from 17% to 30% of paper. And we're still trying to figure out what that actual number is. But as a sustainability person, I was certainly guilty of sending something to print, forgetting that I'd sent it to print, sending it to print again, forgetting about it, sending it to print again, finally getting up and going to the printer and finding 3 copies of that thing. And so now That still happens occasionally, but when I go there, I see all of my print jobs and see, well, I only need one copy of that. So that's been a really good thing. And then I also mentioned the shred bins, that we do have shred bins distributed throughout the company. They are strategically placed, typically near the printers and copiers, but that's certainly one thing that we could still do a better job in terms of placing them where people that are convenient to employees, and also, again, making sure that employees understand that really all of our paper needs to leave the company in a shred bin. We contract with a local company to shred documents on site, and I actually emailed our records management guy to find out who it is, and the answer is probably on my phone. But if you're interested, I could probably tell you. I don't know if it's one of the people who's exhibiting outside. And then in terms of, I asked Eric what would be a good resource, and so he suggested the National Association of Information Destruction. But if it's something that you do have questions about, like I said, it's something that I really care about, which some people think is kind of weird, I'd be happy to be a resource for you on that. Okay, so going back to waste audits, our next steps, I've got a waste audit planned in our Medford, Oregon office for late April. And then we've got one more in Tacoma, Washington, and we're waiting to see, we've got some other things going on with our Tacoma office. We are currently in 2 buildings. We're consolidating our footprint into 1 building, and we're also sending people off-site to work from home. We've had a big transition to telework over the last like 18 months, and so it doesn't make sense for us to do a waste audit right now until we know what actually what that office is going to look like in terms of occupancy. So hopefully that'll all be completed in early June, and we can schedule a waste audit for this summer. And we've got some great on-the-ground resources who can help us in terms of planning and strategizing and also understanding that waste stream. So I think I've talked about this a little bit already, but so coming out of this and partnering a lot with our facilities department, we want to implement a more robust waste reduction program based on the waste audit results. So distributed waste and recycling stations, not just one on a floor, many floors away. The buddy system, it's one thing that I learned in master recycling. If you have a trash can, you need to put recycling there, because otherwise you're telling people just throw that away. Implement composting where supported, engage green teams as educators, and then also encourage the shift away from single-use items. So really try to address the reuse and the upstream. And I gotta tell you, it's a little challenging. Mostly out of cost savings, our facilities department discontinued providing plastic dishes, cups, and flatware in the very few locations where they were doing that. And I heard from a few people, do you want me to eat my soup with my hand? And I'm thinking, did you not get a spoon where you got the soup? You know, if you purchased it from a place, did they not give you a spoon? Or if you brought it from home, can you stick a spoon in your bag? And I'd have people say, I really care about recycling, but can you please not take away my plastic utensils? Another comment I got was, are you gonna make me bring my own toilet paper next? And so what I really wanted to say was, actually, I'm going to give you a rake. I'm going to tell you to find some leaves. We're going to give you a bucket. No, but I didn't do that. But it's been really interesting to see that there's been this small but very negative reaction to that. And you know, they'll say, well, it's not a lot of money. And money's kind of not the point. It's about shifting how we think about things. I didn't mention, I wanted this next department to remain nameless, but I was talking to one of the admins in this department about waste reduction. And in their break room, they have a sink. Now, not every department has their own sink. They have a sink with hot and cold running water. And they wanted to know if they could get a dishwasher, because that would help them in terms of replacing paper plates and plastic utensils with durable, reusable stuff. So I brought my facilities partner, also a master recycler, with me to meet with the department admin, And the facilities person said, we're not installing dishwashers anymore. Employees are incredibly hard on them. We spend a lot of time and money on maintenance. Can we talk about the sink? And this poor admin said, well, it's a productivity issue. We don't pay them to wash dishes. And these are highly compensated professionals, not executives, but highly compensated professionals who I think are kind of full of themselves. And the head of this department said, be sure to tell them it's a productivity issue. And it was kind of funny and not at all staged. A friend of mine who's in that department happened to walk into the break room when we were having that meeting. She rinsed out her yogurt cup. She put it in recycling. 30 seconds, probably less, as this poor admin was telling me it was a productivity issue. So what I really found out was it wasn't so much a productivity issue as it was a hygiene issue, a sense that washing the dishes didn't get them clean enough. There was a key person in this department who would have felt better about being able to wash the dishes in a dishwasher and not in a sink with dish soap and drying them in a rack. And I just remember when I found this out, I mean, this whole meeting was just incredibly frustrating. And I just realized I needed to let it go. And that it wasn't worth spending the limited amount of energy that I have, like fighting that battle, that I really needed to find allies and work with them. And kind of, support them and use them as a model so that other people who wanted to follow that example had a place to look. So in huge contrast, our sales department at Regence Bluecross Blueshield of Oregon has really embraced it. And it really started with an employee who's very passionate about sustainability. And she also happens to plan a lot of the events for our sales team, so where we order meals and things like that. And so she was really well positioned to implement these things. And so we moved away from water bottles to, we have pitchers, we have glasses. That's what they use now when they bring people inside for meetings and when we host meetings externally. They use durable and washable plates and dishware. And they're always looking for ways for how they can be even more sustainable. So that's been a really, really great example to be able to lift up to other people and say, see, it's not that hard. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, and I don't know if you can all read it. Around the time of the whole ruckus about doing away or not continuing to provide dishware, somebody told me about this poster, which is actually sold out. But I do give credit to the guy who designed it. And I should say, I would love to put this up in my company or put this on my sustainability website. I'd probably get killed. And so I don't know if all of you can read it, but what it says is, it's pretty amazing that our society has reached a point where the effort necessary to extract oil from the ground, ship it to a refinery, turn it into plastic, shape it appropriately, truck it to a store, buy it, and bring it home, and I'm gonna have to lean in here, is considered to be less effort than what it takes to just wash the spoon when you're done with it. So I might still sneak it onto my sustainability website, but okay. So one of the other things that we're doing, trying to on the upstream end, or I guess maybe it would be midstream, is to find ways to reuse things. So we have a lot of excess office supplies. So if any of you need binders, we have binders. They're actually in pretty good shape. So we have an excess supply closet. Typically it's managed by our administrative assistants. It's not very well used. Intuit actually has a website that's called Free Cycle at Work. And so if any of you have access to this presentation, that's actually a clickable link. And so I'm trying to socialize that with our administrative assistants to say, Intuit has built this database that we can use to manage this stuff so that, somebody can say, I've got 20 binders or I've got 20 notepads or whatever, and it's all right there. And then in Oregon, and I'd love to know if there's an organization like this here, but in Oregon, in Portland, I should say, we have an organization called SCRAP, and their motto is creative reuse. And it started as a way of providing teachers with low-cost supplies, because a lot of times, unfortunately, teachers buy this stuff out of their own pockets. And so scrap in the time that I've known the organization, in like the last 10 years, has moved 4 different times because they keep getting bigger and bigger and outgrowing their space. And they have a program called Fill Mines, Not Landfills, where they will deliver barrels to businesses with a list of things that they're looking for. So it's everything from rubber bands to binders and staplers and things like that. So I'm trying to engage more with scrap so that we can take the stuff that we're not using and put it to creative reuse someplace else. And then the other thing that we're doing is working with our local community investment people to find nonprofits that we can who could really use this stuff, who don't have a lot of money to spend on supplies. And so we've had some success there, but again, if you're aware of anything like scrap or other ways for us to donate excess office supplies, I'd love to know about it. And then I guess on the upstream side, we're looking to use more recycled content. So we worked with our office supply vendor to promote products with recycled content, and we're actually to the point where 25% of the stuff that we purchase has recycled content in it. We also switched from 100% virgin fiber paper to paper with 30% post-consumer content. And this was one of those things that I didn't advertise at all because I didn't want people to complain. I didn't want people to say, oh, it's getting stuck in the printer. Like, we worked with our printer vendor, and we said, does this meet your specifications? Is this gonna like go through the machine easily? And they gave us this like scatter diagram, and they're like, yes, this paper's fine. And so we worked with our procurement area to negotiate with our vendor, and so we got it so that post-consumer content paper was actually cheaper than 100% virgin fiber. So there was a cost incentive there as well, and then we just pushed it to the top. And so gradually, all of our paper that you see kind of stockpiled by the printers is it's a Boise Cascade Aspen 30. And like I said, we never communicated about it because we didn't want people to find reasons to complain about it. We just want it to be like, oh, it's different. Okay, well, it works. That's good. Mentioned green teams a few times. And I should say, so the sustainability program, the sustainability department at Regence is me. And so I sit right next to our community investment department. Great group of people, great partners, but I think there are like 7 people, 8 people in that department. So I joke with them that I'm everything from the department admin to the department director. So I need green teams. I need passionate employees to help me get the word out. So it's find out who's interested. And my belief is that personal passion is so much more important than role. A lot of times committees will get staff because we need one from this and one from this and one from this and one from this. And sometimes what happens is you have people who were told to show up at a meeting. I call them seat warmers. Nice people, but there's no like strong personal connection to what's going on. So I'd rather have the people who are really connected to it and have them help me find other people who are also really connected to it and build from there. Really important to tap into employee energy. I met with a couple of Salt Lake employees yesterday, and I said, you know, this really you guys are on the ground here. You know what the opportunities are. You know what would make a difference here. You tell me what it is that we should be working on, and let's work together to make those things happen. And Jesse will be getting back to you because we want to work with you to do some of that stuff. Empower them to do the work. And then because of a lot of our employees are hourly employees down in Salem, Oregon, very passionate group of people. They're also our customer service people. So our number one thing is we need to make sure that we're available to our members to provide our members with the service that they expect. So this can't get in the way of them doing their jobs. So it's really important to have management support. And then some barriers and challenges. We're a large organization. We're in 4 states. We're in 14 different locations. We have 5,500 employees. Large organizations can be siloed and bureaucratic. We are siloed and bureaucratic. Um, and so we know how to make easy things hard. Some lack of awareness. So I've been with the company for 13 years. As the ethics and compliance officer, I was very visible. I did new employee orientations. People were like, now, did you get a new job, Jackie? I ran into somebody at a party a few years ago. Do you still work here? That was frustrating. Lack of alignment, some people not really understanding how sustainability connects to our overall mission, and then lack of resources. So I depend entirely on the allies that I can cultivate within the organization to make things happen. So the waste reduction and recycling will not happen at all without the facilities people hand in hand. And because we've done all these waste audits together, they've gotten really educated. They get it now, so they're a really good partner. And they also see that there's some opportunity for them to save money if we can actually reduce our waste. So some antidotes to these barriers. Patience is incredibly important. And persistence. Sometimes I feel like my job is to go around and scatter seeds and kind of see, like, you know, which seeds actually germinate and sprout, and then work on that. But I will kind of keep coming back at people and sort of like kind of trying to wear them down, and doing it in such a way that I'm not coming at them, but I'm trying to like bring them on board, to cultivate them as allies, to help them understand what's in it for them. And it's starting to work. Continued education to help people connect to sustainability, finding more allies. I did a presentation with our what's called Regence Life and Health, which is our life insurance company. And I had no idea that they cared about sustainability as much as they do. But when I met with their management team, it just really resonated, and they found all kinds of ways to connect sustainability to the direction that they wanted to take the company, and that was exciting. And then also like demonstrating value, so that our CFO and our CEO goes, okay, it's worth it for us to keep doing this. Jesse came out to Salt Lake, to our office in January, and he gave us some aerators. And those aerators are going to save us a few $1,000s. And I took that back to my boss, and she said, that's great. You know, we're a $9 billion company, but saving money, even if it's relatively small dollars in the scheme of things, is something that we really value. And then here's my contact information, and this photo is from the waste audit that we did in Salem. And it's hard to see, but we had somebody from an organization called Garden Services, which is, they work with businesses to help them improve their sustainability efforts. And then a couple of guys from Marion County were also there to help us with the waste audit. So we have a little bit of time, right? Yes, yes. Okay. Great. Okay. That's a great suggestion. So for the benefit of the audio, I got an answer to my question about where we could donate some of our excess office supplies, and it was to check with local colleges and universities. And I got to say, one of the really great things for me to be here is to see all the different sustainability things that are going on. So I talked to some students at Utah State University about the stuff that they're doing, some great like tap stickers that you can put on your water bottle. So I'm going to go back to her and get some more to give to our employees. So, but thank you for that suggestion. Other questions? Yes. Yeah, so the comment was around maybe making it a little more challenging for people to throw things away. And I should say, centralized trashing is something that we're looking at. Our janitorial vendor has told us that we could save $100,000 on our contract with them if we had employees taking their own garbage to a centralized trashing station. I floated that idea with my green team in Seattle, where there are a number of administrative assistants, and one of them said, candidly, my boss is a slob, and I'm going to end up throwing out the garbage. And 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 I hadn't even thought of that. And we don't want to create a situation where people's administrative assistants are now responsible for throwing their boss's trash away. I mean, to me, just the way that looks and feels is just horrible. So we definitely want to move in that direction, but there's probably a lot of like interim steps that we need to do along the way. One of the things that we're talking about is shrinking the size of the trash can so that the trash can is small. So it's actually what people will get is a recycling container with a trash can hanging off of it, so that the optics are there's more recycling than there is trash. And it'll probably be a while before we move to centralized trashing. And we'll probably need, the CEO saying, look, I do it, but first I need to work on him. Yes. Wow. Nice. That's great. So I don't know that I can do justice to everything that she said. So I'll just capture the things that really resonated. I mean, it was all good. But so she's with EPA Region 8 in Denver, and they were having some problems with waste reduction and composting. So they had to show by they showed that the company next to them, the gasket making company that had a lot of environmental infractions, actually had a higher waste reduction percentage than the EPA. So that sounds like it woke the EPA office up. And I love what you did with the Kick the Can program. I need to talk to you about that after. And I want to talk about the stickers. We, in our Burlington office, in our green team, they did this thing. They did a kind of a sustainability fair. And the mother of one of the employees actually works for EPA in Seattle. So she came and did a display, and she had trash cans, little mini plastic trash cans that she was giving out. And so I took one, and so my trash can is now this big. And it takes me weeks to fill up this trash can. And then I go and I dump it out. So I have a regular trash can that I haven't put trash in for months. So I would love to find out more about your voluntary effort, because I'm trying to figure out how to socialize that within our own company, and it sounds like that may be a really effective way to do it. So I don't know if you want to just kind of stand up so that people can see you, so that if other people have questions, they can go find you. Other? Yes. I I don't, but I would say maybe talk to Jesse or Ashley. But I mean, if you give me your card, I'd be happy to send you my kind of waste audit 101, because it's actually amazingly easy to do. But as I said several times throughout the presentation, having that local resource. So like even in Portland, where I'm a master recycler and I think I know, what is and isn't recyclable, I was still asking our local sustainability guy from the city of Portland, is this recyclable? It just really helps to have that person there as a resource. So yeah, so give me your card, and then I don't know if you know Jesse Millen Johnson, who's right there. He'll be speaking at the next session. Maybe he can help you connect. And I've got to imagine URA can also help you connect to whatever resources may exist. Any other questions? Well, thanks. This is a lot of fun. And I'm really, I need to build up my sustainability network in Utah, so I would love to talk to you, get to know you, and know what you do, and if there are ways that we could partner, I would love that. So thanks very much.